Oh, hi, Mark.
Hello, and welcome to the Even Worse podcast, where the films are bad and the podcast is even worse. I'm your host, Matthew Rogers. Joining me today,
Drew Myers,
Joshua Summers,
and special guest replacing the guy we don't even like,
Gage Davidson.
That's right.
Gage Davidson. Sounds really similar to Cade, but don't worry, you'll forget all about Cade in just a couple minutes because Gage is already so much better. Sorry to whoever is friends with Cade that listens to this.
Hope you're not listening, Cade.
He probably won't. Anyways, okay, today we watched the incredibly amazing, wonderfully talented Shaquille O'Neal, 4-time All-Star in the movie Steel.
4-time NBA champion.
Sorry,
he's won the He's been in the All-Star game a lot.
Plenty of times.
He's a
We're not the sports guys though. It's okay.
The movie Steel. Now, Steel
Based off a DC comic.
based off a DC
Right.
comic. Josh, you looked that comic up because
Unfortunately. So Steel is, I guess, the alter ego John Henry Irons. Started as a character in a Superman comic based around the Doomsday. Everyone knows about Doomsday now because he actually killed Superman. But back in the late 90s, when Superman was killed by Doomsday, John Henry Irons actually was trying to save Superman and defeat Doomsday, but since he didn't have any powers, he was actually buried under rubble. And after Superman was killed, John basically became the man who would try to clean up the streets of Metropolis because a big gang war started. Superman couldn't stop the gangs anymore because he was dead.
Dead, yes.
Yeah, I would not expect a dead man to stop gang
And then
wars.
he comes back and stops all the gang
This
wars.
story is, the movie we watched is completely different.
There's nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with that, but
Absolutely
that's a really, really great origin. Okay, so as the guest on the podcast, Gage, I want you to summarize the film we just watched.
Yeah.
Well,
You got this, dude.
I would pretty much say you start off with Shaq working with the military.
Please, what's his real name?
Oh,
Do we remember anyone?
It's John. It's John.
Johnny Henry
Johnny
Irons.
That's right, John Henry.
so
Come
he's-
on.
they're testing this military weapon on a tank, and they start shooting at it, and all these smoke comes
Got
out.
lasers and stuff.
Yeah, and then the guy, pops out the top with waving a white flag.
Okay.
Pretty interesting.
That's
You've
the-
got to
that's
go
the first
faster,
minute
my
and a
man.
half.
We have just described in 30 seconds, 20 seconds of the movie.
Okay. What else? So
They-
he leaves the military, right?
So he leaves the military because the weapons are too destructive. He doesn't want all that power. And heads back to L.A. to go see Grandma.
To play for the Lakers.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. No.
Sorry. Yeah.
Fun
Okay.
fact, this is actually his first year on the Lakers.
Yeah,
It's
we talked about
97.
this while we were watching the film.
Yeah, it was his first
Gage
year on the
mentioned.
Lakers, so I guess it was probably,
Very fitting
great
that he's-
advertisement for Shaq coming to L.A. But anyways, so he quits and he, starts working at the steel factory, which honestly, all about the steel factory is just him working there.
Yeah, he
it
was
plays no other relevance. to the story.
steel factory.
Yeah. He lives in a junkyard and has.
Does he live in the junkyard or does he live at Grandma's house?
I think he lives with the
I think he
junkyard.
lives.
He
at the
never
junkyard.
spends a single night.
He
Well,
never
we
s-
don't really see him sleep.
Okay, well,
Shaq doesn't.
Shaq
even
doesn't
sleep.
sleep.
But it's close to the end where, well, I guess there's really no end to this film. But he's at Grandma's house and his chins get up and he's like, oh, I'm kind of tired. I think I'm gonna go to bed. Okay, so he's at the junkyard, and who's the bad guy in the film, Gage?
God, I don't remember his name.
Me
He's
either.
like-
It's okay.
We'll just use Judd Nelson.
Yeah.
Judd
Bender
Nelson.
himself plays the villain.
They, I'm going to speed up Gage, taking too long.
Thank you, Drew.
Create a weapon, destroys a lot of crap, and Shaq's trying to stop it. That's the plot.
Please, John Henry Irons is trying to stop it.
Whatever.
And so, of course, as any rational person would do, John Henry Irons says, I have to make a suit
Right.
entirely out of steel.
Steel, yeah.
Steel.
No, please, he is a steel man,
Yes.
not a
Steel man.
trademark.
Not a man of
iron.
iron.
Right. We
There
can't
you
say it.
We forgot about Sparky though.
Sparky is his Oracle, and I say Oracle because I'm a nerd. Oracle is like Batman.
It's the Lois Lane.
No, well,
Batgirl after she gets a shot through the spine.
Yes, and then she sits behind a computer. Sparky is his
She's
Felicity
Overwatch.
Smoke, his Cisco, his
Overwatch.
Caitlin.
His
Sure.
muse.
Okay, so quick impressions. Drew, go.
Yeah, my impression of this film was, Shaq, I love him. Great athlete. one of the best. Terrible actor. Awful actor. I think a lot of the stuff, almost all the stuff he's in, and I love a lot of the cameos he's in.
Shaq isn't an actor though.
Exactly.
He's not even acting in this film.
Which is exactly. I think honestly, like when he was reading his line, I guarantee when he was the take that he did, he read his line right before he did the take. He just looked like he's reading lines, and I don't blame him. He's a fucking athlete. Like we don't expect him to do anything incredible.
But have you seen Space Jam? Michael Jordan is the greatest actor of all time. All right, Gage. What are your impressions of this film? This is the first bad film you've watched with the Even Norse podcast.
I know. It's an honor.
Long-time listener, first time
He's not going to come back.
impression.
He just does not want to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm never coming back. No.
First impressions.
I would say awful writing. Just the jokes were pitiful, but the plot moved nowhere. It was just a bunch of scenes. There was like action, but the movie never went anywhere.
That was the thing we sort of noticed honestly there was no 3-act structure. There was no character development. Everyone was sort of one note, and it was like, here's the note they're on. This is almost the character type that they're going to stick with, and that's all we need. Josh, hit me with those impressions, my friend.
Yeah, I think you can summarize it by the movie doesn't start until the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when a good superhero origin, that balance is always really crucial. You go Batman Begins or the original the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, that setting up the hero is very crucial.
And I love the setup. It's usually my favorite. The origin is my favorite part.
Right. That's the whole point of the film, to really give the audience an introduction. Because, when you make these kind of films, I don't know if they had the same thing in mind for Steel, is you want to branch out the character into sequels. You want to continue a story.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie just very much falls short into its structure, especially how it distributes its acts. Mm-hmm. And obviously you add the bad writing. Shaquille O'Neal should never be in a film. He should stay to Icy Hot and like the General Insurance.
The General commercials.
But that initial reaction is definitely just stick to commentating on basketball games, Mr. O'Neal, from now on.
All right, so Josh, you mentioned something. You were like, the origin story is super important. I agree, because I think it's really easy for an audience to like a superhero. I think superheroes are likable. They're doing good, and they're saving people's lives, and it's the audience's job and the writer's job to make the audience appreciate the person under the suit. It's like, what happens if Iron Man dies? Sorry, what happens if the Man of Iron dies? What happens if the Man of Steel dies? Like, why do we care that he exists? Who could be hurt in the process? And this movie did none of that.
And this is one of the reasons why I hate Man of Steel, is because they focus on his origin for about 10 minutes. While as other, like for example, the Superman, the original Superman, they focus the majority of the story on Clark Kent. I know this has nothing to do with Steel, but we're talking about superhero origins. And Peter Parker's story, as becoming Spider-Man. I think that's why Tobey Maguire is still the best Spider-Man.
Nope.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Wait
with the new
till
one
June,
out.
and then we'll make a decision.
We'll see.
I think one of the other things, every one of the heroes that we grow in love with, one of the big things is that they have flaws, and obviously you're not going to make Shaq look like the worst person on earth, because it's literally just a celebrity. You're not going to make a celebrity look bad, but Shaquille O'Neal literally has nothing going bad his way. Like, nothing bad happens to him. He is the good. No one ever doubts him. He's never done anything wrong, questionable. I
agree.
Obviously, we're taking this very seriously, considering the movie we just watched is literally just a comical mess.
Yeah,
true.
But if you're gonna make a superhero movie, you're gonna find people that are gonna critique it based on other superhero films.
And that's the thing, is every superhero movie has a fan base, and I guarantee the fan base of Steel is just in horror.
The 4 people that
all
love
6 people that love the comic. Yeah.
So here's something that you sort of hit on. So you're like people are going to critique it as a superhero film.
Right.
This was 1997. The only superhero films we've had were Batman.
Superman.
And Batman and Superman.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
right. We're Batman and Superman.
Sure.
And those are the big ones. And then we had the Incredible Hulk TV show. I think it had come out by this point.
There's really nothing at this point, which is kind of surprising, like you just mentioned. Like, can you imagine bringing a C-list superhero? It's kind of what Marvel ended up hitting a jackpot with Iron Man, but Iron Man's kind of a B-list superhero, and even still is to this day, except for in the cinematic universe. But it's so surprising that they would bring a character like Steel into the forefront when literally that same year DC is throwing out Batman and Robin using the biggest name in comics.
There
Arguably.
are much bigger heroes to focus on, and they chose to do Steel. And I don't know if they chose to do Steel because they're like, we want Shaquille O'Neal to play a superhero.
Did they pick the character first, or did they pick Shaq first? That's the question you've got.
And that's something Shaquille O'Neal executive produced this, which means he just threw a bunch of money into it.
Sure, of course.
Speaking of money, so I looked it up. The budget for this film is $16 million.
Wow.
In 97, yeah.
And I think 15 million of those went to Shaq. Yeah.
That would have made sense.
All right,
Yeah.
Gage.
Mm-hmm.
Budget was $16 million. How much did it make at the box office? Unless you already looked this up, and then don't answer it because that's cheating. You got this.
2 million?
2 million? Okay, Josh, how much did it make?
I'm gonna give it a little bit of credit. It made $60 million domestically.
Okay.
I was going to say like 10.
Okay. The guest on the podcast got closest, $1.7 million.
Wow.
This film
was about
made
to say.
$1.7 million at the box
Good
office.
Lord.
That's
16 to 1. Wow. Oh
I'm
my
surprised. I'm
goodness.
really
I was trying. I
surprised.
really wanted, like
You would think,
go ahead.
You would think a movie with Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, you think
Yeah,
Shaq
that's
would
what I'm
win.
saying.
You would think he would bring enough star
That's why I was
power.
trying to give it obviously people
Mhm.
wouldn't get a good second or third weekend.
Like if LeBron James were in a movie, I'd go see it.
Space Jam
Everyone
2.
would go see it. Oh,
Please,
Space
I
Jam
really
2.
hope Space Jam 2 doesn't happen. Bring back Michael Jordan.
But this was different than Space Jam. This was a superhero movie. They were at least trying to take this kind of seriously. I mean, maybe not 100% serious. I mean,
I
there's
agree.
jokes
I
throughout.
cannot believe the box office. I had no idea. Obviously, this movie's trash and no one talks about it anymore. But I cannot believe the box office numbers.
Okay,
no
so
one saw it.
Gage, this was part of your first impressions was the script, and I do think we sort of already talked about the script and mainly more the characters. The script for this film is just really, really, really weak.
It's your typical children's movie. It's just awful.
and exactly, you said typical children's
With
movie.
the word shit every 5 minutes.
Yes, that's the other thing.
There is they said what every swear word except the F word. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't.
And
They
multiple
didn't
times.
say the F word, though.
They never did, and it's
No.
like, and that's what it kept it out of a rated R
Yeah.
film. And I was and I honestly expected this to be a children's movie. I expected this to be like Space Jam.
Because he's an athlete. Kids look up to athletes. You usually associate the two.
Mm-hmm.
Did
I mean,
Shaq
it's kinda
curse
weird.
once? Because I don't remember.
He did. I mean, I don't remember a specific example, but I remember being like, Shaq just.
Yeah,
swore.
it's kind of surprising, honestly.
To mention, while we're talking about the script, let's talk about this stupid basketball thing. You knew that, none of us no one saw this before.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
So I mean,
No.
you knew going in. There's this big scene at the beginning where he's shooting this basketball. You're like, oh god, they're gonna make this like a little thing.
He
where
like
he's
comes.
gonna
He comes back
keep
to LA.
missing the shot, and he's gonna keep missing the shot, and then you all know at the very end he's gonna make the shot.
The
That's gonna
big
save it.
climax.
We called
of
that from the
film.
beginning, obviously.
Yeah.
Which it brings back the writing as just so
It's-
cliche,
it's
so
cheesy.
old.
It's very
They-
gimmicky.
They wrote this as a children's movie, but then they were like, wait, hold on a second. Steel is a great character, and we need to make this gritty and dark. And so they just started throwing in these extraneous cuss words and making it. And honestly, they didn't know who their audience was. And I think that's a big thing,
Exactly, yeah.
is they had no audience. Or I guess they had an audience, but they didn't know.
They didn't know if it was going to be kids, or they didn't know if it was going to be older sports
Fans of Shaq.
Yeah,
Well, that's
exactly.
interesting. I mean, you
They
mentioned
tried-
that because the superhero segmentation hadn't been created yet. It wasn't until maybe mid 2000s when the market was really established who was going to see these films.
That's true.
And it's kind of interesting to see that they just know, because it's definitely not a full-fledged action movie like a RoboCop, which I kept thinking of over and over,
Yeah.
looking the suit. But it's also certainly not just a goody two-shoes kids movie.
I agree. Drew, what's on that iPad of yours, man?
Ray J's in this movie.
Oh,
Ray J.
Next topic.
The wonderful Ray J. A man of many talents.
Don't Google him.
Ask Kim Kardashian about his talent.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
So here is something that I sort of Josh is over here laughing. Here's something
That's pretty funny.
here's something I noticed with this film is it almost like, I don't know if you guys have seen Get Out, but in Get Out there are two very different styles. It is like a thriller, but there's comedy
Comic
in it,
relief.
right? And And Jordan Peele is able to balance that really well in his writing and
Which
in
is
his
hard.
in his
those
direction.
are two completely different ideas. Thriller and comedy.
Mhm.
You don't see that a lot, but I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard he does that really well.
And so in Steel, they are really trying to balance this action comedy, which is a lot easier to do. And they
Marvel does it well.
Marvel does it incredibly well.
Every Marvel film has got a lot of comic relief. You go
For
back
sure.
even to Spider-Man, like one of their early. What was their
Spider-Man 3, funniest film I've ever seen.
Another thing to mention, Shaq is just so much taller than everyone in this movie. There's so many scenes where he's talking to like someone. The guy's probably he's talking to is like 6 foot, maybe like 5'11",
Right.
and he just looks like a monster. Like he looks like
He had to kneel
twice
down in
this-
like
yeah,
half
yeah,
the
yeah.
scenes.
They couldn't do any wide shots because if they did wide
No.
shots, Shaquille O'Neal
By
would
the
just be
camera.
staring down.
His chest would be
Just
gone.
be-
And the whole
just be
movie,
from the shoulders
the other
down.
thing, the whole movie, they're just like showing off his strength. Like, I don't know if it's like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, they're like
Yeah.
picking up cars.
He
or like,
he picked
yeah.
a fence up out
Yeah.
of the ground, which was
Destroyed the phone
insane.
booth. Yeah.
He did.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually pretty cool. Okay, so the one thing we actually haven't really talked about is the bad guy, and I mean there really isn't that much to talk about because the bad guy really sort of isn't in the film. It's more of just like, hey, I'm Shaquille O'Neal. I'm Jared.
Really, the bad
Jeremy
guy's the
Irons.
only one that pushes the movie along.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think without the
barely.
bad guy, this wouldn't be a movie. This
And
would just
then-
be Shaquille O'Neal with his friends and
But
family.
then on the other flip side of that, most of the movie, like he only pops up really at the end again. There's like with Judd Nelson's character, his goal is just this weaponry that we've been seeing throughout the movie that Shaq's trying to. Oh, excuse me, that Mr. Iron,
Mr.
Steel
Iron.
Dude, is
Johnny
trying to
Ham.
get off the street. He's trying to sell that to it was neo Nazis and some other terrorists
and Australians.
and Australians, the big terrorists, and.
Those gun control
What are
laws.
those kids up to?
And so I guess there's a real disconnect for at first Shaq's fighting these like gangs that have these weapons for some reason, but
Mhm.
then I don't know. I just found that all of a sudden it was like, oh, by the way, Judd Nelson is the villain at the end because they have one like 2-minute scene in the same room in the beginning and then one at the end, and other than that they are never talking, never see each other. And I think a movie like Die Hard, where it's like that same situation, maybe that like the grudge match situation, is just done so poorly. It's ridiculous. It just, I mean, talk about bad villains.
I do think it's very clear though that Judd Nelson's character, who I looked up, his name is Nathaniel Burke. We're just gonna keep calling him Judd Nelson. Judd Nelson's
Bender.
character is very clearly the villain. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, for
he
sure.
sabotages the whole war thing at the beginning, and then starts making these super weapons
Oh, for
to
sure.
distribute, I guess, through arcade machines. That's a whole subplot that really isn't explained.
It doesn't make
Um,
any sense.
I bet
And-
that got edited out because there was all those scenes in the arcade room.
Yeah,
There
that's
were,
true.
and so that's something. Yeah,
We demand to see Steel Uncut. We want it now.
Will not stop.
Shaq, if you do not release us, help it get
Shaquille
released.
O'Neal.
Release the tapes.
Shaquille O'Neal. I
We
know
are going
you
to
listen.
boycott
Shaq's cut.
TNT
Yeah.
Oh
until
my gosh, can we get a cut where Shaquille O'Neal edited Steel? That-
it's just his face.
It's just the basketball shots with him.
and him, and then the shots of him smiling.
yeah. Hey.
Okay, let's talk about this. We were talking about it during the film, the test run. Now, every superhero movie, almost every superhero movie has a test run, and that's basically they've just discovered their powers. I'll bring back Spider-Man. Favorite example, Spider-Man. Okay, so he's getting his suit together, looking for the guy that killed Uncle Ben. That's the test run. It's about in movies. It's about 5 minutes tops, where they discover the powers. They do something very minimal,
big
like
learning
stop a
experience.
robber.
It's a
Honestly,
learning
well,
experience.
okay,
Exactly.
so actually, you're talking about Spider-Man. In my opinion, the Spider-Man test run is when he's like on top of the building.
Oh yeah, that too.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
And he's just jumping and he's like squirting stuff and he's like, ah.
In this
They call it
movie-
web.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's not
Web?
stuff. Web. my
In this
bad.
movie, this test run, we're going to call it, probably, we should have timed it.
30
probably
minutes.
30 minutes. Easily.
Felt like
it was,
30
it was
Easily
another
a
film.
quarter of the movie. Yeah.
And
I think they were just like, we have the budget to spend. Let's make a really long action sequence, because at that point that was the first action sequence we had
It was
seen.
the first time he was suited up.
And so yeah,
fighting crime.
they built the suit, and they built the suit 40% of the way through the film.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
was like, okay, the midpoint of the film, the turning point is going to be
You
when
can't
he
have a
puts the
test
suit-
run if you're going to spend that much time, setting it up like that.
Or if you have one, it's got to be like 2 minutes.
And
3
the
minutes.
reason that they make the test runs so short is because usually it involves stopping a villain or the foe that's really not going to be in the film anymore, and that's why you make it so short. And they extended the cut or they extended the clip so long, and the character still didn't have any importance either. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, he was just chasing after this gangster who
Random
who
gangster.
happened to have like a gun that he had built for the military. And he's like, why is that happening? So he's like chasing him
It's
through
like a
this train
henchman.
yard.
Yeah, it just really doesn't make
They
sense.
they rob a bank, and then like the police woman they're with, who we never find out about again. I'm just realizing that she like
Yeah.
went to the hospital and then never came back. So he's like chasing after this gangster through a train yard. He runs after him for like 6 minutes in this train yard, and then gets stopped, I guess, by a train. Like, so he gets stopped by the train. He's on the wrong side of the train because the train falls on him, but he like rolls through the door, and then the gangster's like, "Yeah, I did it," and then like runs away. And they cut. He turns around a corner, and then Shaquille O'Neal's right there. It's like, why did we have this whole 6-minute scene of them running through a train yard if this was how it's going to end? He still gets captured. And I think it really is. So they're just like, we just need action. We just need to put action in the film. Don't worry about structure or whatever or time.
One more thing that's on my iPad I want to mention before we move on. After this, let's move on to the final scene, because of course that's the just craziest and stupidest, the wheelchair and all that stuff. But first, let's talk about. This is the first time I've ever seen a montage scene in a super film use gospel music to
Oh,
it was just so out of place. And like most of the music was fine, whatever. It's supposed to, it fit for most of it. But this gospel song, while they're like sharpening the metal and stuff, I
Building
felt
up
like
the
it was
suit.
so out of play. Like of all genres, you choose gospel.
I think the funny thing is, I believe that song, if you really listen to the lyrics, I think it
says-
was made for the film.
It
And
says
that's
Steel,
and
so-
yeah, I think that was the funniest part.
That was funny.
Seems is like an oxymoron, the gospel music during creating a war machine.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Also trademarked by Marvel.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so I looked it up just now because thanks to the internet. This was Shaquille O'Neal's third film.
Wow.
So he had already been through the ringer twice. He did a basketball movie where he played a basketball player, right?
nominated for like an Oscar, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Right out of the
Won an Oscar.
Right out of the gate. He was nominated for an Oscar. Didn't win. That was the year that Nicolas Cage won. And then 1996, Kazam came out.
Oh, wow.
Where he plays a magic genie.
The genie.
Look out for that one.
That's
Probably
the
gonna-
classic
That's
right
that's
there.
next. That's the movie Gage thought we were watching. And then Steel. So Steel was in 1997. So he did Kazam and Steel right back to back. I guess he was.
And we were talking about it during the film. I think it's just crazy that he was doing this. Like I didn't even realize, but he's doing this while he's a professional athlete. Like how did he have time for this?
No, he moved to LA to become a movie star.
Yeah.
Basketball is just
And they're
his
like,
hobby.
Basketball was his
they're like,
side thing.
oh shit! It's like the Lakers are here. I'm like, well, connect two and two.
Might as
Might as well become make a Hall of Fame candidacy.
I don't know how he had time for that. That'd be like if like Steph Curry
off-season,
right
man.
now. I know, but still, like I feel like off season need to be.
I mean, the most you
training
ever
or
see
something
now
like
is
that.
they're in commercials, and that's
Yeah.
it. They've got the sponsorships. That's usually what it's based upon, but you don't really see the athletes in
And Shaq-
feature films.
Shaq is the king of sponsorship. I see him on every commercial. He's not only the general. What else does he do? He does so much more.
Icy
Icy
Hot,
Hot, bro.
Gold
Icy
Bond.
Gold
Bond.
He's a commentator for ESPN
Yeah.
or CBS or
He's
something
staying
like that.
busy. Guy's making a lot of money, except not on that film. All right, let's talk about this last scene. Can we talk about the grenade? That's really what I want to talk about.
Let's go from the beginning. Okay, so final scene. Judd Nelson is trying to sell these weapons to bad guys, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna sell these weapons to you," and he says, "I'm gonna rent them to you," and they're like, "What?" He's
Lease,
like,
yeah.
and he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, they have to be charged, and I'm the only one who can charge them," and so they all like get kind of mad at him, and then Shaquille O'Neal just like gets shot through a window or something, or
Yeah, the bad guys, the henchman, one of the henchmen, like they were gonna spy on him. The henchman like spoils the
Yeah, that's
the
right.
party for Shaq.
And then Shaquille O'Neal sort of spoils this big party, and anyway, so they there's like a big fight breaks out because Shaquille O'Neal sort of like steals his hammer back, and then
Oh, by the way, he has a hammer.
right,
we
That's
haven't
his
mentioned that
weapon
at
of
all.
choice.
Giant
Turns
hammer
into
that's
a gun.
that turns into a gun, which is the coolest part
That's
about
his.
his
That's
hammer.
his primary weapon,
Yeah.
besides literally scaring anyone who isn't a 7'6"
Yeah.
Godzilla.
gentleman. Yeah.
his undercover. He's like got to get even taller.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he shows the guy takes his hammer. Is this where we out of the story?
Yeah.
Well, I already said he stole the hammer back.
Yeah,
It
he
doesn't
got it
matter.
back.
Okay.
So he's got the hammer back, and a sort of a firefight breaks out because his friend Sparky, who's in a wheelchair, has like
By the way, she's in a
modified
wheelchair.
her wheelchair to like shoot stuff. I don't even. She becomes like a rolling tank turret thing, and just fire
Kills
and all this
everyone.
stuff. And then Shaquille O'Neal is about to like I guess kill Judd Nelson. Sorry, Johnny Irons is about to kill Judd Nelson.
Bender.
And then Ray J appears because Judd Nelson
What a
has
film.
And Ray J's just a kid in this movie.
Yeah.
He's like
Yes,
18.
he is.
Like
He was
easily
probably
18.
something else in that other film.
better be
bringing
above
it,
18.
bringing it back.
Next week on the Even Worse podcast, Kim Kardashian.
Please no, please no.
It's actually a great film. You should watch. No.
Oh.
We do not condone
Pornography.
Kim Kardashian pornography.
Okay, let's talk about the grenade, please.
Okay,
God.
so getting to the
Can
point.
we end this
So
episode?
he throws this grenade, and
Wait.
No, we got to set this up again.
No.
Wait. Shaquille O'Neal.
This is the fourth basketball
Johnny
shot.
is the fourth. Okay,
Yes.
we're getting to the fourth. Shaquille O'Neal gets Ray J, and they like run inside this room to like be safe. And the dude with the super low voice is like,
Hey.
"Take this grenade," and he like
Hey,
throws a
nigga.
grenade inside, and the grenade doesn't go off for 45 seconds.
I mean,
40 seconds.
literally 45 seconds.
because they're like, what are we
it's like,
supposed to do?
It's like the scene. Have you seen the Batman Adam West, the movie?
Yes.
67.
Totally.
Yes. Yes.
So
The
this is
bomb?
like when he has the bomb.
bomb, yeah.
The bomb takes literally like 3 minutes to go off, and this is exactly. But it's a grenade. It's not even
Yeah.
like a bomb. Like
Grenade
it's
goes
a-
off in like 6
Like
seconds.
a bomb could have a giant fuse if
Yeah.
you want, but it's a pull.
Honestly,
it's a
I would have
pinpull
preferred
grenade.
if it was a bomb because it's more basketball shaped. So
Yes.
they're inside this room. They're trapped inside this room, and the only way that they can be saved from this grenade
Throw the
is,
grenade outside.
is throwing the grenade out of the room. But they're
Yes.
the only way they can get the grenade out of the room is through a small hole,
I
10
mean,
10 feet from the ground. That I guess it's Shaquille O'Neal's job to Johnny Irons' job to throw through, and Ray J's like, you have to throw it through the hole. He's like, I was never good at these. And he's like, I still can't
And-
shoot a free throw.
They
Yeah,
keep
like we
harassing
said-
his free throw skills,
Yeah.
which it's
Yeah.
very meta. It's pretty good.
It's just,
The self-deprecation is prevalent, but it's pretty good.
Do you think Shaquille O'Neal ever cried on set? Because they were like, all right.
Don't make fun of me.
Do you think
That
they told
grenade, he threw it 83 times before making it through
Yeah.
the hole.
it was Jackie Chan?
damn it,
Yeah.
Jackie Chan style of just like, I have to get it correct. So they're saved because Shaquille O'Neal finally makes the free throw. His average is
And
25%.
his grandma. We didn't talk about the restaurant.
Oh, let's just not even bore these people.
you know what?
Anyways, subplot.
Um,
Shaq's
and
grandma's
blue.
trying to make a French restaurant or something. It really doesn't
Can't make
matter.
souffle.
It doesn't add anything to the film.
It
It's not
doesn't
even
matter. It's not
neither
really
does
important.
anything.
No.
Add to
Does
anything.
anything.
Don't watch this.
Part about the grandma's not important. Okay, so basically the grandma, what she does. Is,
Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
sorry.
All right, we
Getting
got
back to
about
important
2
things.
minutes. Let's go ahead and give it a rating. 1 to the room. Gage, you don't know this. Well, you listen to our podcast, hopefully.
He's one
Really?
of our 4
One of the
listeners.
listeners.
The hell is wrong with you?
We rate it from 1 to the room. Room being the worst movie ever, being
Uh-huh.
10. 1 being Pulp Fiction.
And then 5 being just like a meh movie, right?
like
So
Pulp Fiction?
anywhere from 5 to the room is like slowly gets more and more entertaining, and then anywhere from 5 till 1 is just like it slowly gets good. So Josh, what's your rating?
From 1 to the room,
One
I
to the
would give
room.
this a Shaquille O'Neal free throw percentage of
Yes.
25 or 2.5.
A 25 is a good score though.
2.5.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Out of
Okay.
out of 10.
2.5.
Out of
Yeah.
10. But 1 being a good movie. Like 1 being the greatest
No one
movie of all
cares
time.
about our ratings. All right.
Are you sure?
I will give this. I'm gonna put. So okay, I'll give this a fair rating. I always try to make a joke during this segment,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but as a fair rating, I will give.
Please, this is a serious podcast, Joshua Summers.
I will give this one a. I'm gonna have to go with a 7.
Really?
Wow.
Let's go with
Not
Okay.
bad.
Yeah.
Drew?
I'm going to give it a 4. I actually kind of liked some of okay,
All right, I
I take
quit.
it back. I don't
Oh,
like
Lord.
it, any of it, but this
Please
is
get
definitely one of the more enjoyable films that we've watched these past couple weeks. It had, it was kind of interesting. It had some action, so I'll give it a 4.
Gage?
I'm gonna give it a 6 because
Thank
I got
you.
real bored at the
Yes.
end.
Really?
Yeah.
I
You should
I
watch
was
The
I was
Wicker
I was
Man.
tired of watching it. I was like, this hasn't gone. It did end itself somewhat in some form, but
there was an ending.
there was somewhat of an ending. But I was too tired. I was too tired of watching it by the end. I
It's
just
time
didn't
to-
really care.
To
Time
be
to kick
fair,
Drew
my
off.
rating is on a pretty similar vein. I'm giving it a 5. I'm just
Yeah.
giving this a bad movie
Yeah.
because I think there was just so many flaws with the story and flaws with character that like even the entertaining stuff still didn't really make up for it.
I wasn't that entertained. There were some parts, but not really.
All right, so I guess we can't tell you anything yet because it's in process, but we've got something cooking in the next couple weeks.
Oh
I guess
yeah,
we can say.
I'm raising my eyebrows, but I still haven't been able to figure out the video portion of the podcast, so you can't see my eyebrows raised, but they're being raised. So
Stay
look out for
tuned.
that super cool thing. This has been the Even Worse Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at TEW Podcast. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on SoundCloud.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Share with your friends if you have them. We don't.
We don't. So yeah.
Only my dad listens to this podcast. This has been
And
the
me.
Even Worse Podcast.
Thanks,
Engage. My dad Engage. Listen to this podcast. For the Even Worse Podcast, I'm Matt.
I'm Drew.
I'm Josh.
I'm Gage.
Where the
Oh.
films are bad and the podcast is even worse. Signing off. I forgot how to end it.